Hello viewers, it's another episode of the Economy Today on TVRC. My name is Kolawole Itunioluwa. Joining me on set today is Mr. Akintunde Sonmi. Vincent, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
He's a lead analyst on TVRC and economics and also an author. Today we are bringing to you another interesting topic that says Russian-Ukrainian war, the never unending crisis, the impact on Africa. So as we all are aware that there have been a lot of controversy between the Russia and the Ukraine, and this has really caused a lot of destructions to the Nigerian economy. As we all are aware that the Russian-Ukrainian war has been ongoing between the Russia and the Ukrainian since February 24th, 2022. So don't you think that there will be a lot of controversies that has really caused issues to Nigerian economy? And do you think that the Nigerian economy will actually grow to a better state? So I'm going to be welcoming my guest one more time on set today. You're welcome, Mr. Akin, today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you for honoring us once again.
Pleasure is all mine.
All right, thank you very much. Now, I want to talk about Russia and the Ukrainian war, that is the never-unending crisis and the impact to Africa. So the first question I will ask you is that, Russia-Ukrainian war, the never-unending crisis, why?
The never-unending crisis, I think in my opinion, is that there is sort of interest. And the interest could be from, sometimes it is regional, sometimes it's as a result of the external interest. Don't forget that Russia is among the leading economy in the world. It's not the leading economy, but it's among the leading economy. And it has grown over time with a whole lot of influence, influencing so many areas on earth. I won't put it in that generic term on earth. But generally, recently we saw that, don't forget that Ukraine emanated from the mother of Ukraine is Russia. Is Russia, and recently we've heard about how the Russia, they've been at have been kind of at loggerhead with the Western, with the leading economy, that is with the United States of America, and also there's a kind of a bromance between Russia and the likes of like China. So don't forget that. You agree with me that the coming together of Russia and China would be a kind of a very massive threat to the US. So this kind of interest, and also don't forget that Russia controls some part of Ukraine. They are called the Donbas region, where we have the Kherson, we have the Donetsk, we have the Luhansk, we also have a part of Zaporizhia, what have you. So part of that area they are being controlled. So, and recently there's a kind of the Western interest, the interest, just the leading power is looking for how to tame Russia. So there's a kind of this kind of alliance between Ukraine and the Western world, not just the US alone, even the likes of the United Kingdom. So that becomes a threat to the Russians. And for that singular reason, Russians are saying, the mother of, don't forget, they all evolved from the USSR, the Soviet region. And now Russia is saying, that cannot work, it won't happen. You cannot be under NATO and you still want to gain your territory. Instead of you forming an alliance with NATO, we are going to make sure we sink that. Talking on Russia now is saying that they will never allow the Ukraine to join NATO, and NATO, they are the Northern Atlantic Treaty, and NATO. Ukraine is saying, see, we are sovereign, we are a state, we can decide for ourselves, forgetting the fact that all those things we have a ripple effect in the long run. So this has been what has actually happened to Russia and Ukraine. So I just hope there has been a whole lot of intervention, but the war seems never I don't think it's going to come to an end. I'm optimistic that anything could actually happen, but so far so good. Russia is saying that we cannot join NATO and be our neighbor. And Ukraine is saying that we are old enough to stand on our own and we can join whosoever wants to join. So that's been the why the crisis still very much looming and still seems never unending.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kitide. Now to my next question, let's just outside the war, let's look at this. Just outside the war, let's look at the ripple of effect of COVID-19 and its correlates to the war.
Okay.
So are we faced with terrible humanitarian crisis in the history of mankind?
Don't forget that we are just coming out of COVID-19. Okay. And after COVID-19, I think February 2022, that was when the Ukrainian, Russian-Ukrainian war, was happened a full-blown war. I think it's February 2022. So just imagine, just coming out of COVID-19, that has actually, sank so many nations. So many people, you will agree with me that so many African countries are still struggling. They are still struggling to regain their food after the COVID-19, and now this Russia-Ukrainian war. So, I mean, this has been a kind of a terrible situation on so many third world states. We even talk about Africa. It's even imperative for us to talk about the third world state generally. Not just Africa alone. Look at a country like Lebanon. Look at a country like Syria. Look at a country like, you could mention, we have them in their numbers. Yeah. They are all still struggling to come out of COVID-19. And this war, Russia-Ukrainian war. So it has been a kind of a terrible humanitarian crisis. So many people are no longer staying in their homes. Many are staying in the internally displaced camp, internally displaced, IDP camps. So it has been a very terrible situation. But like according to Chinua Achebe, is that things are falling apart and the center can not longer hold. And I asked myself these questions. This particular question, and when was the last time things weren't actually falling apart? Check in the history of mankind. We had the First World War, we had the Second World War. People passed through it. But the point is, all human must rise to make sure that things are put in proper perspective, things are done the right way, and people live happily thereafter.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Akintu. The viewers at home, I believe you're enjoying the program. Now, to my next question. I'm going to ask you this question. It will be two in one question. So I just wanted to answer it and let the viewers at home, let them learn from it. Now, let's go back to Russia-Ukrainian crisis. How is Africa mostly affected? That's number one. Then number two, let's narrow it down to Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, take a look at like I said, so many countries in Africa are still struggling. They are still struggling, in short, to come out of COVID-19. And now what's it called? The Russia-Ukrainian war. I'll put it in two perspectives. Number one, from the economic point of view. Number two, from the victim point of view. Now, generally, Russia, they are among the largest producer of grains, flowers, and and even crude, be it export and import. Don't forget that we in Nigeria, we export crude oil and we import petroleum products. So be it import and export, Russia, they are one of the largest producers of crude oil in the world. Maybe you could after that to be, I think one of the three, they are Saudi Arabia and Russia, basically in the world. So just imagine, just because of that war, so many African countries are unable to engage in a free flow, and even in South Africa alone, Russia, they are one of the largest investors in South Africa. And even some countries that are struggling from terrorist attacks, for instance, Libya and some other African countries, they've always been at the help of Russia, the Russian foreign mercenaries, and not just Libya alone. So many, but because of the war, now all of them have to return back to they all have to return back to Russia, to the extent that Russia have made use of they've overstretched their military to the extent that they are now handpicking university students to come and fight the war. It's as terrible as that. So the just imagine that you are the price of bread. It hasn't. I mean, you could back a few months ago or a few years ago. You know how much bread is being sold, and you know how much it's being sold. I mean, how much they sell it now. How much? So that aside, look at grains, like all those cornflakes. You know, like all those cook and hold, like golden morn. All that is being used with grains and whatever. Go and look at the price today, just because of this war. So that's from the economic point of view. And from the victim point of view, 20% of Nigerians, I mean 20% of Africans, they are enmeshed in Ukraine universities. Now, because of the war, all of them cannot continue their education. They have to return back to their states, or better still, they are just loitering around. And all these Africans, they are being faced with virtually racist attack on a daily basis, discrimination. You saw what happened during the war, where Africans were not allowed to mount the bus. I mean, the buses that were taking all those who are seeking asylum in another country like Russia, like Poland and Romania and other neighboring countries. You could see the kind of treatment that were given to Africans. So, generally, we've been grossly affected, despite the fact that we're just coming out of COVID-19 and the emergence of the war.
All right. Before we draw the curtain for today's program, let me ask you one more question. And the question is, what have we learned from both sides? I mean the Russia and the Ukraine, the war and other natural occurrences.
I think, in my opinion, if there's something we should learn, is that we need to wake up as a continent, just for crying out loud. What are they using in producing grains that Africa cannot make do with? We have a whole lot of. I mean, you will agree with me that all grains, 90% of grains, they come from what's it called? From corn. You know, maize corn plantations. We have a whole lot of. We have arable lands that could also give us something like that. So why can't we produce our own flour? Even to the extent that even cassava flour, do you know the number of cassava that are being produced in Africa year in, year out, and yet we cannot. What about our refineries? For instance, look at Nigeria. What is wrong with us? We have crude oil in this country. We still depend on Russia for petroleum products. I mean, we depend, not Russia, not Nigeria, sorry. But even in Nigeria, we have crude oil, but our refineries are not functioning. We still depend on some countries to get our petroleum products back to Nigeria. It's not making sense. If we have the crude oil, what is wrong in us refining our crude oil? You talk about maintenance. Look at what have been stolen from even the theft of crude oil alone. So, I think there's something we've learned so far. I think we've learned that we need to just wake up and get our act correctly. The act of governance to be gotten correctly. People who are serious, those who are serious minded should be the one at the end of affair. Not those who are there not those who will borrow money from World Bank to run campaign, and at the end of the start still they siphon the money of Africans, and they are taken into their Swiss account, offshore account. So, like I said, we need to go into productions, food product. Look at the food insecurity that is ravaging Africa at the moment. And that aside, again, as regards natural occurrences, see, to fail to plan is to plan to fail. Look at Somalia. For the past, for years, I mean, for close to maybe 1 or 2 years, now there are some part of Somalia that has not actually witnessed a rainfall. We also have some part of Africa that are experiencing. I mean, look at that Somalia is experiencing droughts. Look at some part of Africa also. Look at Sudan recently that were submerged in flood. I mean, Nigeria is not even left behind, to the extent that though our Western allies were sending in messages that okay, they are commiserating with Nigeria as regards the and the whole of London is built on water. Look at what happened in Lekki Peninsula recently. In Lekki, look at how flood were leveling up houses because we failed to plan. Like I said, the whole of London is built on water.
Now we've come to the end of the program on Economy Today on TVRC. I still remain your presenter, Kolawole Itunolua. See you next time. Bye.